Hi, I'm Loretta, and I'm really glad that you showed up today. Welcome to my sewing room.
Okay, this is going to be a super quick little video on cutting fringe. So I've got a piece of leather here, and I've just cut a small piece. And this particular one I'm going to cut the fringe to 6 inches long. So the first thing I do, I work from the back side, and I make a mark 1/2 inch down from the top of my piece of leather. And I like to use this small rotary cutter. I feel like I have just a better control over how far I make the cut. Now when I'm sewing fringe into the seam of a bag, what I like to do, and I did a little trial and error to figure this out, was I'm gonna cut at 1/8 of an inch. Each piece of fringe will be 1/8 of an inch wide. And I start up here at the top, and I go ahead and, you can go into this 1/2 inch area up here just a touch. You just don't want to cut all the way through. And then you're going to cut down to the bottom, but don't cut all the way through. And then you're just going to move the ruler over 1/8 of an inch each time. And again, don't cut all the way to the end. I'll show you why here in a little bit. But I'm just going to continue cutting, moving the ruler 1/8 of an inch each time until I have this whole piece cut. And again, I'm moving just past this line. It doesn't have to be even or anything. You just want to move into this just a little bit so that when you sew this into the seam allowance of your piece, you won't have any uncut area extending out from the seam on the outside where you can see it. All the uncut leather will be encased inside the seam allowance. And if you have a smaller seam, like a 3/8 instead of a 1/2, you can draw this line at 3/8. But a 1/2 makes it a little easier to cut into this area slightly without going too far. So I'm just going to keep on moving this 1/8 inch. I'll speed this up so you guys don't have to watch me cut dozens of cuts with my rotary cutter. So I'll speed this up and get this completely cut. Okay, we're getting to the end here. As you can see, if you have a lot of fringe, this can be a bit time consuming, but it's not difficult. So as I'm getting to the end here, I am actually pretty well lined up here to finish this. If by chance your cuts get slightly off and you don't have it even at the very, very end, I just cut my last piece all the way down and make it even. But this one actually looks like it's completely fine. Okay, so now you can see this is cut most of the way, but not completely to the bottom. So the first time I tried this, I cut it all the way through, but what happened was when I sewed it into my seam allowance, the fringe was just flopping all over the place. It was hard to keep it out of the way. So then I came up with this idea of cutting it most of the way, but not completely. So then this just gets inserted into your seam allowance on the side, front, wherever your fringe is going to be. And then when you're completely done, you're just going to take your scissors and finish all of these cuts. And again, depending on how much fringe you have, this can be a bit time consuming, but I found it much easier to deal with the fringe, especially since I had several inches of it, probably about 10 or 11 inches on the bag I made on each side. So this kept it from flopping all over the place and getting into my seam allowance where I didn't want it. So that's how I cut my fringe. I cut it the same way for tassels, except that I cut it all the way through to the end. And you know, I don't leave this part for later. And then it goes into a tassel cap. So anyway, that is my very quick and easy tutorial for adding fringe to a bag if you're going to sew it into a seam. So, hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I hope this helps somebody out. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.